Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Steve Virgil coming to you here today. We're driving home from work. A wrestler of the past passed away today. This isn't one that's really got me choked up. This isn't really got me one kind of thinking about my life. Kind of like, with when I talked about the Scott Hall passing, or like when Kevin Nash's son died. Just really, get you thinking about it. But I mean, it does suck that Virgil died. Virgil, honestly, since his career in WWE, WCW left, he sort of became the laughing stock of wrestling. Everybody knows the past WWF superstar Virgil, visiting just about every convention. I think everybody's ran into him that's been to a Wrestle Reunion, a Wrestle Con, or any kind of wrestling signing that he's able to get to. I had a chance to meet Virgil roughly, if I had to guess off the top of my head, 2013. I felt like I was bargaining with him all day long. I pulled up and he was one of the first guys set up, so he was one of the first guys I went to. I just really wanted a regular combo where I got an autograph and in my encyclopedia and a picture, and he ended up wanting to charge me like $60 because he said he was in the encyclopedia 3 times, and I'm like, no, I just need one, dude. I just need one in one picture. I thought it would be like $20 for Virgil. But then again, I don't even know how the hell Virgil ended up in the middle of California, because it wasn't like anybody brought him out here. Did he really look at a map and of all the conventions going on, and was like, I gotta get to Concord, California. It's gonna be a money cash cow. But really, if you think about this dude, I mean, how he survived in the business as long as he did is the biggest question mark to me. I've heard that he was a wrestling star in I believe it was in Memphis. I don't really know a lot about his wrestling days. To me, he came on the scene as the manager, the bodyguard of Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase came into the WWF. You remember the promos of the $1 Million Championship and things like that. But Ted DiBiase came in to WWF from Mid-South, where he was a huge babyface. Immediately came one of the biggest heels in the company. And he had this backing of, he had all of this money that he really could buy anything that he wanted. And it got him all the way to the finals of WrestleMania 4. Even months before then, on the big event, he ended up buying the WWF Championship from Andre the Giant, which ended up setting up the whole tournament. Which was funny that it got him all the way to the finals against the Macho Man Randy Savage. After the tournament, there would be a couple of matches with DiBiase. I'm talking about DiBiase like he's the one who passed away, but Virgil was all the way, always with him, always doing the dirty work. I can remember, Virgil being involved in the matches. There's a Ted DiBiase versus Macho Man steel cage match in the old school WWF blue cage. Where Virgil is climbing up the cage, and he's fighting with Macho Man, trying to make sure that his guy came out on top. He was always there. He was on the payroll, so he was like the biggest supporter of Ted DiBiase there was out there. It seemed like he was always there for him. There was never any tension between the two. And then at the Royal Rumble 1991, it was the Rhodes. It was Dusty Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes who was making his in-ring debut, going up against the $1 Million Man and Virgil. And I'm pretty sure that DiBiase and Virgil got the win, if I remember right. But then after the match was over, there was like a disagreement between them. I can't remember if it was like $1 Million Man wanted him to pick the money up off the mat, or if he wanted him to pick the championship up. And Virgil, who it felt like he had been getting kicked around his whole career, finally stood up for himself. And that led to them having a match at WrestleMania. Then they had a rematch at SummerSlam 1991. I'm going to watch that tonight, honestly, because I remember that because I had a VHS tape that was recorded of that pay-per-view that one of my dad's friends gave to me. It's one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. I don't think it's the greatest pay-per-view of all time, but man, if I've watched that thing 100 times, I've probably watched it 1,000. And Virgil, the whole storyline is that Roddy Piper, took him under his wing. Didn't want to see him getting kicked around anymore. Wanted to teach him how to fight. To fight back against Ted DiBiase. And Roddy Piper is on a commentary for the entire show, but he's on there during that match, and he's yelling at Virgil. It's almost like Piper's in the ring, and he's just yelling at Virgil. Like, sometimes you gotta get hit to be in the fight. Sometimes you just gotta fight it back. Virgil ends up getting the win. I believe it's probably the biggest win of his career. It's definitely, honestly, one of the few that I can think of. And then after that, DiBiase ends up getting the championship back. So it's like Virgil didn't have a monumental run with the $1 million belt or anything like that. But he then became, kind of like he was wearing the red and white tights. He was like an elevated bottom of the card guy. Like, he was on a lot of shows. He did a lot of things, but he never really won a lot of matches. Maybe if you watch like Superstars or All American or something like that. Like, maybe Virgil was, winning matches on there against jobber guys, but he just kept on like pushing on. And he probably wrestled one of the best matches of his career on an episode of WWF Superstars. When Bret the Hitman Hart won the championship, he was coming off of like being an Intercontinental champ, and it was kind of like I don't want to say it was a fluke that he beat Ric Flair, but that was kind of the way, like, as a kid watching the product at the time, I felt like, a guy like Bret Hart isn't supposed to beat a guy like Ric Flair. Like, I was smart enough to know that there was like classes of things, so it was almost like it was an upset victory or something like that. So Bret started wrestling guys on the it was almost like he started wrestling guys on the bottom of the card to show you how good they were. I think he wrestled the 1, 2, 3 Kid on an episode of Monday Night Raw. He wrestled Virgil on an episode of Superstars. And that's probably one of the best matches out there that Virgil ever had. And Bret was making it look like Virgil actually had a chance to win the belt out there. He's one of those guys that you can point at shows and be like, he wrestled in like not mixed, but like multi-man tag matches that didn't really mean anything. I know he got his WrestleMania 10 match cut due to time. But that was going to be a clusterfuck of a match anyway of guys that were all in there. I think he was tagging with like Hacksaw and like Sergeant Slaughter at the time. And then, one day he just disappeared. Where he went from, you don't really know. But then the NWO, gets running. That you've got the storyline of WWF is taking over WCW. You've got Hollywood Hulk Hogan. You've got Kevin Nash. You've got Scott Hall. Of course, after them came Ted DiBiase, who was supposed to be like the money man of the group, falling off of his $1 Million Man gimmick. So they're at 4. He must have been after 6. Because I think Giant was 5, 6. So it's like possibly like when Virgil joined WCW, who's joined at NWO. He's probably like the 7th member, let's say. And it was kind of like just supposed to be like a little bit of a joke deal. And then if you honestly know the backstory of everything that was going on, that spot honestly went to the Godfather, who was coming off of his, I think, comic gimmick, where he was sort of like a Street Fighter character, where he beat up the Undertaker and stole his urn and crap like that. And he was a member of the $1 Million Corporation. Didn't really work, but it was a hell of a gimmick. If you see pictures of it as a kid, I was like, wow, this dude's gonna be fucking awesome. But he ended up not making the jump, and he ended up, being able to do the Godfather thing and join the Nation of Domination. And then after the Nation, he got pretty much the biggest run he ever had, where he won the Intercontinental Championship, hanging out with the Hoes every night and things like that. So it probably worked out for him. But how Virgil, as Vincent in the NWO, kept his job as long as he did, it didn't really make any sense at all. They always had the NWO Black and White, which was like Team Hollywood, and even when like they made NWO Elite around 2000, they still kept the B Team NWO. Maybe because they had Thunder and they still had to have the guys under contract to lose matches or make them make sense. So, had like Mr. Perfect, Stevie Ray, Vincent, Rick Rude, Brian Adams, Crush, still rocking the colors. And he did that until like basically there was no NWO to support. You would think that he would go away, but he gets reinvented, repackaged into the member of the West Texas Rednecks, which really made no sense at all. He changes his name to Curly Bill. They go up. They're supposed to be the heels wrestling against the No Limit Soldiers of like Master P. And I guess the fans of WCW didn't really like Master P. And they just started supporting the West Texas Rednecks, to the point where I bet you if they actually would have sold a CD or an album, I'm not sure if it would have gone platinum, but it definitely would have gone gold. It was like, I love country music, I love rock and roll, something, don't forget about Merle, rap is crap. Horrible song, but honestly, if it hits you at the right time, it's gonna be catchy and it's gonna get stuck in your head there. But once I'm pretty sure he rode that out. They weren't at like the last Nitro, so I don't think that the West Texas Rednecks made it all the way to the end of WCW. Like they probably weren't on the last pay-per-view or something like that. But I never really heard anything about Virgil losing his contract or getting released. I don't really know how they looked at that when they were trying to balance the books in those dying days and didn't let him go. What he had on somebody or something like that doesn't really make any sense to me, but the dude had one of the longest running jobs there was in wrestling. He had one hell of a run in the WWF. Didn't really wrestle a lot of matches. He was just like a around the ring kind of guy. But to be able to roll that into a career where he was probably in WCW longer than he ever was in WWF is just crazy. I know the stories that are going to come out about, meeting Virgil at conventions or people who ran into him at setting up a table at the New York's subway, which had nothing to do with wrestling. Just people would just see him and remember him and want to give him $20 for a picture or something like that. The guy really, he lived the gimmick. I mean, the carny life that a lot of these guys talk about doing these conventions, to keep it going after their wrestling days are over. I don't know, man. Crazy. But, I mean, it sucks. It's not one of the ones that's really got me scratching my head thinking about my life, but it sucks we lost Virgil today. I know tonight I'm not gonna do like a live viewing of it, but I'm thinking about doing a watch along, watching that that match with him and DiBiase. Possibly the biggest match of his career, and might be something I do from now on when guys like this pass away, because Virgil has a DVD. It's like a documentary that was made by somebody, just talking about his life out there on the circuit doing things like that. I know that somebody took my YouTube video of me meeting him talking about it and put it in the documentary. It's like the life and times of Virgil or something like that. So if you look for it, you can find it. It's not like on High Spots or anything like that anymore, but it's got to be somewhere. Probably not like at your local DVD store or anything like that. It's definitely not like at Best Buy, because they don't sell DVDs anymore. But if you look hard enough, you'll find it. It's out there. But peace out, guys. See y'all later.